Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and in this follow along, we're going to be taking a look at how to use ConfigMaps. So just make sure your micro K8 environment. And so I am in mine here, and I think I'm going to actually need to use the K8 environment as well, because that's where we created our original Docker file. We might need to do an update there. But the idea is ConfigMaps allow you to pass data into multiple pods so you have consistent data across your containers. So what we're going to do here is just type in ConfigMap Kubernetes. And we'll go here and we'll take a look here. And so here's an example of a config map. So we'll just copy the contents here. We'll go over here and we'll say new file configmap.yaml. And we will go ahead, reload, and we'll just paste this content in here. So this looks a bit confusing, but the idea is that you have your data and then you can have a key and a value. But then you have some values that are a little bit more complex. And the reason why is that these will turn into like JSON or YAML file formats. Not super important for the scope of what we're doing. So I'm just going to simplify this so it's not as complicated. And what I'm going to do here, well, we might leave actually it in because I don't think it's going to hurt anything if we do leave it in. Hold on here. And I'm just going to go ahead and just leave it in. Maybe we can view it as YAML. But I want to set a message here, and we'll just say, I'm trying to remember, like, how do you say hello in Barsoon? Okay. So hello. Okay, so if you don't know Barsoon, Barsoon is the Mars books. I think it's Barsoon, that's how you pronounce it. And so we'll say Barsoon, and that's basically saying like hello Mars, okay? And so the idea is that we will update our original file to consume that environment variable. So if we'll say like hello message maybe is a better name here. And actually just to make things a bit easier for me so I don't have to kind of guess what it is, I'm just going to type it in all caps, hello message. And so what we'll do is go back to our original K8 environment, and this is where, yeah, we created our app. And so in our Ruby app, what we can do is do something slightly different. I'm going to do env, single quotations here. It's being a little bit silly. And so if there is an environment variable, it will use that. Otherwise, use hello world. I'm going to just put an extra exclamation mark here so that we know that it is working. And so that shouldn't cause any issues. So we'll double check, make sure this works. We'll cd into that directory here. We'll do a bundle install. Shouldn't need to, but we'll just do it for fun. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Could not find bundler. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, RVM list. So RVM used 3.1.0. Remember, I couldn't default it before. I just didn't want to look it up because I figured we weren't going to be going back here too often. And now we'll do a bundle install, make sure everything's fine. And then I'll do bundle exec Ruby Sinatra just to make sure that server, just to make sure that it's working correctly. And then on a new tab here, I'm just going to make a new file tab here. I think this is running on port 8080. Yes. So we'll just do a curl. Whoops. That's a file. I want a terminal. We'll do a curl localhost 8080. And it says hello world with a double exclamation mark. Okay. Now, if we were to pass an environment variable, we'll just double check to make sure that works. So what we can do is go to the front of it and type in hello message equals new message. Okay, maybe double quotations here. I'm not sure if it'll take double or singles. And we'll go back over here and we will hit up, make sure that our app works. It's not taking it 1 second here. Maybe we don't need the semicolon. Maybe we'll just take that out like that. There we go. All right, so it is accepting environment variables. So now what I want to do is I want to repackage that Docker file. So I think we might have wrote it in here. No, we did not. That just came with it. And so I'm going to write bundle Docker, Docker build -t, or sorry, period -t. We called it Sinatra. I don't exactly remember. So what I'm going to do is just go over to the console here, open a new tab. And we'll go over and go grab it from ECR, just because if I make a typo here, it's always a big pain to fix. So we'll go to our container registry here. And we will go into our app here. We'll view the push commands. We'll take a look here. And this is the one I want. So that way I'm not making any mistake. Okay. And I'm going to make sure I'm in the K8 environment here. And we'll go ahead and just erase that out there. Hit enter. And that's going to build that new one. And then what we can do is then copy these next lines here and have a really easy time. So go ahead and paste that in. And we'll go ahead and paste this in. Okay, and so now we have your authorization tire is expired. That is totally fine. If that happens, we just go back to the top here and we paste that on in. Okay, I'm gonna hit up to go to the last one there. And now it's just pushing the updated version there. So now that that's all updated, what I want to do here is I want to double check my deployment file and see if it's set to always. Yeah, always pull the public image. And so what we can do, and again, we're back in the micro K8s. We're going to go ahead and just delete our deployment. So we'll say micro K8s, kubectl, delete, deploy, Sinatra. And then what we'll do is say kubectl apply -f, K8s, deployment. And so that should pull the latest image. It didn't seem like it did though. Usually it would say like downloading or something. Maybe it is pulling it. But what we'll do here is just get our pods and wait for it to run. So maybe it is pulling because it is taking some time. So we'll say describe deployment and see what's happening. I don't know if we can see the images here, Docker images. No, it doesn't show them. Okay. Also, maybe this has changed, so that's something that we should just double check. Okay, so if I go into here. Oh yeah, that's way different. Okay, so what we'll have to do is just paste that on in there. Does that say latest? It doesn't say latest. Maybe we just click into latest there. Yeah, okay, so it should take it. I just want to double check to make sure. I think because like that was a very particular version and I didn't click into that. We paste that in there. Yeah, it is the same thing. So, I mean, we should be in good shape. So let's just double check here and say get pods. I just can't believe it pulled that fast, right? Like I figured we would see like a message like pulling the image or something. So then what we're going to know is if we kind of expose this and take a look here. Do we still have our ingress controller running? Ingress? Oh, we do. Nice. Okay, so if that's the case, then what I'm going to do here is just do curl localhost /Sinatra. And we have our double exclamation mark. So it is definitely using the latest image. So now we are set up. And so the idea with our config map is we're going to create this, and then we want to get this message to show up here. This will just be like config map data here. Name that there. And so what we'll do is type in micro K8s, kubectl apply -f K8s config map. We'll say, okay, so that created that config map there. And I'm just looking off screen here because I want to see if there's a way we can visualize it as a YAML file. I'm just looking here. Yeah, there's like a way like output. So what we can do is type in kubectl get config map to look at it for a moment here. Oh, maybe we should say, oh, micro K8's in front here. Okay, and so we have this one, which is the certification root thing, and then we have config map. So we'll say get config map. Maybe not a great name for it. She probably called it Sinatra, but whatever. And so that doesn't tell us much, but if we go -o YAML, now it shows us in the format of a YAML file. So we can kind of look at that data and see what it looks like. So we have hello world equals that, game properties equals this. Kind of see what the structure is, I suppose. I'm not sure if there's like a nicer way to look at it. I'm just double checking here. No, that's pretty much it. Okay, so now that we have that, we need to now associate that to our pod or a deployment. So if you deployed a pod, you could specify it there, but we're doing it through our deployment. And so we can either mount it as a volume or we can pass it along as environment variables. And so I think what we want to do is do nvar here. So we'll go over back to our reference file here, and we'll just say nvar. And I'm just off screen here with like this one, because I know I've seen it somewhere here. Environment variables. Maybe it's in this ultimate guide here to ConfigMaps. Because there's one where you can mount, yeah, this is what I'm looking for, env from, okay? So you think they'd have that in the main docs. It's always a lot of work to figure stuff out here. So what we'll do is go back to our deployment. And so this one is showing with a pod, but I'm going to assume that I can do that with a deployment, because why not? And so I think it would probably go in line here. Oh, we have env up here. So we could say env from. See, I don't think we need to set this. Yeah, so like here we could probably override it first. Let's just do this as a test before we bring in our config map. And so we'll just say goodbye moon, okay? And then what we'll do is do an apply. Before we do our config map, we'll just see if this works. Deployment. K8 deployment. Great, and then we will just want to do our curl here to see if it would take it. And it didn't take it. Hello message. I'm just wondering here. I'm just looking at our server file here. Yeah, it's called hello message. So it should load that instead. All right, well, that's totally fine. What I'm going to do here is I'm still going to specify envar or enfrom. And I think the reason why I see this as confusing is because it's indented here, but it's actually on the same line here. So this didn't work, but we will just delete this out. Or actually, we'll just change this to enfrom. And then we need to figure out how to map it. So we'll say config map ref : space name example, or sorry, whatever the config map is called. So it's called ConfigMap. And so I think that's how we should be able to map it. Again, I'm just trying this. I haven't done it before, so I'm just hoping that it works first time. And what we'll do here, let's go ahead and do a deploy here, and we'll see if we get an error. So, and from unknown field called name. All right, so that didn't work as expected. So we'll have to go here and look up some stuff. So config map for deployment, Kubernetes. So this, again, this one's for pod. That is frustrating. It should be able to go in here. It just says name though. Oh, maybe I put a hyphen in front of it, so I made an array and that messed it up. Which, by the way, no, actually the other resource was fine. No, I did it correctly. Just make sure that we've done this right. I'm just copying off screen the contents here, making sure I typed it right. Looks right to me. Just double check here. We'll paste it in. Paste. Making sure I'm getting the indentation correct here. Yeah, that's indented. And we'll try one more time. Maybe it's too far indented there. There we go. And so we'll try this again. Okay, so it says unknown field name, v1 env from source if you choose to ignore these errors. Unknown field. Okay, so I'll be back here in a second and figure out what's wrong, okay? All right, so staring at it for a little while here, I think that the issue is that this needs to be indented, so we'll try that first. Because I just found a Stack Overflow that just said, hey, your indentation's wrong. And they have an example here where this shows more indented from this one, and this one is more indented from that one. So we'll just do both of that. So this one from the E, that's where we have to look. Maybe we'll just do that as a sanity check. Ah, there we go. So it looks like it has now been configured. So, oh, but it's the wrong name. So we'll have to type in ConfigMap because that's not going to work if we do that. Okay, we'll try this again. And so it says now it's now configured. So we'll go back to our deployment here and just see if there's anything observable that's interesting here. So you say describe deployment. Since there's only one, it's going to select the first one. I know I said that 100 times, but just so you know. And here it says environment variables from ConfigMap optional false. I'm not sure what the optional false is, but it looks like it must be associated. And so I'm just hoping that if we do localhost, it's going to work. Now, I don't know if we have to restart the pods or if it would restart the pods. So I'm just looking here. It says 12 seconds ago, scale down, scale up. So I think it did turn off and turn back on the pods. So if we go here and do our curl localhost Sinatra, I'm hoping that it will show Barsoon. Oh, it does. There we go. So for whatever reason, when we set an environment variable, it didn't work. Maybe it was indentation or something. But here, it's definitely accepting the environment variable for a configuration set there. So that is really nice. Now, there's another way to use or to pass them along, and that's by mounting it as a volume, which is kind of interesting. Let's see if we can do that really quickly here. So volume. Okay, and so what you can do is specify a volume mount. And this is on a pod. I assume it works the same way. You just have it with the containers. And then we specify a volume. So I think what we would need is a volume mount here. I don't know if that would be enough for it to work. So go back to our micro K8s here, and we'll just scroll on down here, hit enter, paste that on in. And making sure that is right. It didn't grab it all, did it? Oh, it's right here. Okay. And so I think that it would need to be the same level indentation here. And so we'll indent here and we'll, now that indentation's fine. And so we have name config, which seems fine. We'll just type in ConfigMap. We'll go to config. Actually, I think we would have to associate. So we have a volume mount, and then we'd have to actually have the volume to associate with. So we'll have to go back to here, and then this is the volume. So we'll go and go here, and then paste that on in. And here it looks like it's just doing it in line. So set the volumes at the pod level, then mount into the containers inside the pod. Provide the name of the config map you want to route. An array of keys from the config map to create as files. Oh, okay, cool. So now going back to this, it kind of makes sense that when you have this would be isolate files, and we have all those in there for our example. So we can give that a go. In terms of indentation level, we need to figure that out. So this one is at the same level as containers. So we will go up here and hit back and follow the line. So it has to be here. There, okay. And we'll go down. And I think that's okay. Sometimes like when it's like this, you have to have it the same line. Indentation's kind of weird. And so it says here, so this one's called ConfigMap. An array of items, array of keys from the config map to create as files. Huh. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment out our old one here. So I kind of want to leave it in just in case we want to pull it back up. I'm just going to put image, right? I'll put name at the top here. Okay. And then I'll just comment this out. And then I'm going to go over to our config map. Well, we'd have to update our config map for this to work. So what I'm going to do here is go exclamation mark, exclamation mark. And then what I want to do here is, yeah, this all looks fine. So I don't know if this is going to work because we didn't specify this as a file. So this says an array of keys from the config map to create as files. So I'm going to assume that it's going to default back to hello world, okay? So now that we have this, and assuming we got this all right, we'll go ahead and deploy this and see what happens. So we'll type in micro K8s, kubectl, apply -f, K8s, and deployment.yaml. And so that's going to update it. And then we will do our curl. It still says curl Barsoon, because of course we did not push this, so that's why that's not updated. And I don't know if it would actually restart the pods for that if it mounted the volumes, or maybe it's still doing it. So let's go and look at what it's doing. So we'll describe it. And here it says, nothing fancy. I'm just taking a look here. So it does mount to config, which is great. And we have ConfigMap here. Okay. And so I don't think it's the other original config map, I don't believe is there anymore. So it shouldn't be saying that. So I'm guessing that it didn't restart the pods. Let's just try again. Oh, there we go. So it probably was just shutting down the pods, right? So restarted. So it definitely is loading the other one, and it doesn't have that environment variable. So now what I'd like to do is see if we can get into this machine and be able to view that mounted directory. So we'll look it up like Kubernetes pod SSH. All right, and it's not SSH, it's more like, it's like execute here. So this is the line that we want, execute. If we look over here, you can see what it does. So execute a command in a container. And so the command that we're executing is saying, get us into the actual instance here. And I'm assuming shell demo needs to be a particular container. I'll just double check here. So verify the container is running. So get pod shell demo, get a shell to the running container. So probably one of the running containers, which will be Sinatra here. So go ahead and paste that in, and we'll just swap this out for Sinatra. And it was refused because we didn't have micro K8s in the front as per usual. And I didn't type it right probably, so we will, and I'm in the wrong environment, that's why. So just be careful about this one. And I don't need this anymore because we've already updated that. And so we'll paste that on in here, whoops. We'll type in micro K8s. And says Sinatra pod not found. Maybe we called it Sinatra example or something. So we'll say micro K8s, kubectl, get pods. Okay, yeah, they're very unique. Okay, so then we'll have to actually give it the pod name here, right? And so now that we're here, we'll do ls, and we'll go to cd to the root, and we have a config directory. We'll go inside of there, and notice we have game.properties, user interface.properties. So if we really did want hello world to be propagated over there, we would have to write in that file, hello world, and then its path. Okay. And if we go into game properties, that's a file. So we can go cat game properties and see its content. And so there we can see the files. So yeah, that's pretty much ConfigMap. 2 different ways to access it. Very cool. And yeah, that's it.